All right, we're covering 9.1, linear and nonlinear systems of equations. All right, solving using substitution. You guys should have done this in Algebra 1, substituting. I know this is going to be a lot of words. Once you get to the examples, hopefully kind of come back to you. But what you have to do is you have to solve either equation for one variable, meaning I'm trying to get x equals or y equals. Then I'm plugging in that expression into my second equation, my equation into my second equation in place of the variable. So if x equals 4, I'm plugging in 4 for x in my second equation. I'm solving for a variable, and then I'm plugging back in to find the remaining variable. So again, it's an example. Let's go ahead and see how we're using it and how we're solving it. So solve the systems we are using substitution. So go ahead and look at number 1. We're going to substitute. So what that means is I am going to get either x by itself or y by itself. We can do this different ways and we should still get the same answer. So looking at this one, I'm going to try and get x by itself, and I'm just going to do the top one. Doesn't matter which one you do, we're still, again, going to get the same answer. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm solving for x at the top. So for this one, I'm solving for x. All right, so looking at this, I'm going to go ahead and subtract. Oops, let me get a pen. I'm going to subtract y from both sides. And I'm going to end up with x equals 4 minus y. Okay, and substitute means to replace. You could think of it as plug in. I'm plugging something in for something else. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my x, whatever my x equaled, and I'm going to plug it in place of x. So rewriting it, show you what it's going to look like. I'm going to have 4 minus y. That's what I'm substituting. And then I still have that minus y equals 2. Now it's just Algebra 1. This is all kind of just Algebra 1. But now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to solve for y. So solving here, what am I going to do first? I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms. So looking at it, here are my like terms. I'm going to combine these two. I'm going to end up with 4 minus 2y equals 2. And then solving for y, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 4 from both sides. These 4's are going to cancel out. I'm going to have minus 2y equals negative 2. And then dividing by negative 2 from both sides. And y is going to equal 1 as a whole. Now, when you are writing, solve the systems using substitution, my answer is going to be written as an ordered pair. So as an ordered pair, looking at this one, I'm going to go ahead and I know my y value. My y value is 1. Now, how do I solve for x? I'm going to take what I got for y, and I'm plugging it in for y at the top. So now I'm going to have x equals 4 minus 1, which x equals 3. And this is my answer written as an ordered pair. Please make sure it's written as an ordered pair. This would be my answer. All right, let's go ahead and do number 2. So looking at number 2, I have to do the same thing. I'm trying to isolate either my x or my y. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and get x by itself using the top equation. I'm not doing the bottom one because I have numbers with my x and my y. I'm going to go ahead and use the ones that just has x and y by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add y to both sides. These are going to cancel out. I'm going to end up with x equals y. Now I still have to substitute even though I got x equals y. So I'm going to take what x equals and I'm plugging it in place for x. So showing you what it's going to look like, I'm going to have 5 times y minus 3y equals 6. Combine my like terms, 5 minus 3y is going to give me a 2y equals 6. And then last step is to divide both sides by 2. And y is going to equal, let me just write it in black, y equals 3. So again, keep in mind your answer must be an ordered pair. So if y equals 3, I then have to take that y and plug it in, and I'm going to get x equals 3 as well. So this would be my answer for number 2. 3, 3 would be my answer. All right, now looking at these examples, they look a little different, but it's the same concept. I still have 2 equations and I'm still solving for something. So looking at number 3, it says a total of $12,000 is invested in 2 funds paying 5% and 3% simple interest. The total annual interest is $500. How much is invested at each rate? So I'm still doing the same steps. I have to have 2 equations. I have to solve for something and plug it in to get whatever's missing. So it's asking how much is invested at each rate. So there are 2 rates. That means I have 2 funds. So I have to solve for 2 things. So underlining what's important, what do I have? I know my total is $12,000, and that was invested. It was invested into 2 funds. So I'm going to represent those 2 funds as X and Y. Those are my 2 funds. Keep in mind, it's asking how much was invested at each rate. So now I'm going to look at it and look at my rates. I have 2 rates, 5% and 3%. I'm going to change these percents to decimals. So 5% as a decimal is 0.05. You could say 0.05, it's the same thing. And 3% as a decimal is 0.03. I kind of wrote it small underneath. And the total annual interest is $500. So there goes my second equation. So writing what we have, kind of write it small because you do need the space to write it. So what do I have? I have my amount invested, and my amount invested is 2 funds. I have X plus Y is going to equal $12,000. Then I have my amount interest, and that's going to be my one account, whichever account you want to call it, 0.05x plus 0.03y. And that equals my total interest, which is $500. So now I have 2, and I'm going to do the same thing. Now, before I do that, I want to change those decimals to whole numbers. So what you have to do is you have to move your decimal. If I'm moving it twice over here, I have to do the same thing. And I have to do the same thing on my ends, okay? So now if you want to rewrite it, you can say you have 5x plus 3y equals 50,000, okay? Always change it. And now I'm able to solve for x and y. Remember, what is it asking for? How much is invested at each rate? So I have to solve for x and I have to find my y. All right, so same thing we did before. I have to get x or y by itself. Doesn't matter, whichever one you want to use, but let's go ahead and do x. Getting my x by itself, that means I have to go ahead and subtract y. Sorry, it's small underneath, but I'm going to go ahead and write it over here at the side. Write it small so you have a space. It's going to be x equals 12,000 minus y. And then same thing we did before. I'm going to go ahead and take that 12,000 minus y, and I'm going to plug it in for x. So writing what I have, I'm going to kind of zoom in so it's a little smaller. I'm going to have 5 times, keep in mind it's multiplication, 12,000 minus y, then plus 3y equals 50,000. And algebra 1, just solving for y. So what should I do first here? I'm going to go ahead and distribute my 5. Okay, so using my arrows, just showing you where I'm distributing. And 5 times 12. I'm going to do 5 times 12, which is 60, and then add those 3 zeros. So I have 60,000 minus 5y, and I still have plus 3y equals 50,000. And then solving for y. So combine like terms first. You don't have to, but I'm going to do combining like terms. And I'm going to end up with negative 2y. And then what should I do next? I'm going to go ahead and subtract 60,000 to both sides of my equal sign. This is going to cancel out. I'm going to end up with negative 2y equals negative 10,000. And then last step is to divide both sides by negative 2. And I'm going to end up with y equaling $5,000. Okay, so that's for one of my rates. Okay, that's for y. That's what I invested for y. Now, in order for me to figure out x, all I have to do is take my y and plug it in for my y up here. So solving for x, all I have to do is 12,000 minus 5,000. That's going to give me my x value, and how much money did I invest in my second fund? $7,000. Okay, so again, just be aware what the question's asking. It's asking for how much is invested at each rate. All right, looking at part 2, it says a total of $25,000 is invested in 2 funds, paying 6.5% and 8.5% simple interest. The total annual interest is $2,000. Set up, but do not solve the system. So for this question, we're just writing it. So again, understand what the question's asking. If I'm looking at this question, it says, I have a total of $25,000 is invested into 2 funds. And my 2 funds, again, are X and Y. So using X and Y, I'm going to go ahead and write my first part. I have X plus Y is going to equal $25,000. And then looking at my second part, those 2 funds are invested in paying 6.5%. Remember, change it to a decimal, 0.065. And 8.5%, which is 0.085, simple interest, and the total annual interest is $2,000. So if I'm looking at this, writing my second equation, I'm going to have 0.065 x plus 0.085 y equals 2,000. Oops. And don't forget, move those decimals. You don't want a decimal, so change it to a whole number. If I'm moving this one 3 times, 1, 2, 3, I have to move all of them 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm able to solve for x and y. All right, nonlinear systems, systems with exponents. These systems can have more than one solution. So in the last few examples that we did, you get one solution, one x and one y. And so when you have an exponent, you're going to have 2 with no solution. So let's go ahead and do some of the examples. So looking at number 5, we're going to go ahead and try and isolate one of the variables. So looking at this one, I'm going to go ahead and isolate my y. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract 2x from both sides. I'm going to end up with negative y equals negative 2x minus 1. I'm going to go ahead and divide by negative 1 on both sides. And I'm going to end up with y equals 2x plus 1. So now I'm going to go ahead and take this y, whatever my y equaled, and I'm going to go ahead and substitute it in for this y. So what is that going to look like now? I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it. I have 3x squared plus 4x minus, in parentheses, 2x plus 1. So this again is what I'm taking in blue, and I'm substituting it for the y. And then I have equals 7. Next step is to distribute my negative. Then I'm going to have 3x squared plus 4x minus 2x minus 1 equals 7. And then combine like terms. So combining like terms, seeing what I could combine here. Let me grab a different color. I can combine my x's. And combining these, I'm going to end up with 3x squared plus 2x minus 1 equals 7. And again, we're going to have a quadratic, so I need to go ahead and subtract 7 from both sides. I'm going to end up with, again, 3x squared plus 2 minus 8 equals 0. Oops, forgot my x. And now I have to go ahead and factor this. So factoring it, please make sure you remember how to factor. Multiply 3 and 8, which I'm going to end up with a negative 24. So I have to ask myself, what two numbers multiply to give me negative 24? And what two numbers add to give me a positive 2? And that's negative 4 and a positive 6. So I'm going to have x plus 4 and x plus 6 equals 0. And don't forget, because you have that 3 here, let me change my color to a pink one. Because I have that 3 here, I have to go ahead and do what we like to call slide and divide. So 4 over 3, I'm going to slide it. This one can divide, and I'm going to end up with 2. So rewriting what I have, I'm going to have 3x plus 4 times x plus 2 equals 0. And now I have to go ahead and solve for x. Remember, I am going to get two solutions. So the first one, if I solve correctly, what am I going to get? Let's go ahead and I'll just do it this way. I have 3x minus 4 equals 0. And x plus 2 equals 0. And writing that out. So this side, I'm going to go ahead and add 4 to both sides. I'm going to get 3x equals 4 and divide by 3. So right now I have x equals 4 over 3. And this one's pretty easy. I'm just going to go ahead and subtract 2 from both sides. And x equals negative 2. Okay, now that I have my x value, I have to go ahead and solve for y. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and move it over here. So that would be my last step. Let me go ahead and do that. I'll just do it in green. So plugging it in to solve for y, I'm going to go ahead and plug it into this one right here because I already have y equals. So I'm going to go ahead and solve it as y equals 2 times 4 over 3 plus 1. And doing the second one, y equals 2 times negative 2 plus 1. And solving this, putting this over 1, multiply straight across. So I'm going to end up with y equals 8 over 3 plus 3 over 3 is the same thing as 1. And remember, when you're adding and subtracting fractions, you have to have the same denominator. And y equals 11 over 3. Same thing here. Y equals negative 4 plus 1, and that one's pretty easy. Y equals negative 3. So my answer with my coordinates, please make sure you remember which one you're using. So for this one was right here. And then this one was right here. So now I know what goes where. And my answer for this is going to be, don't forget, in parentheses, 4 over 3, comma 11 over 3, and negative 2, comma negative 3 in parentheses, and this is my answer. So both of these are my answer. Remember, I can have more than one solution. So go ahead and look at number 5. And then let's go ahead and do example number 6. So looking at example number 6, still following those same steps. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for y. I am going to choose the top one because this is a positive y. And I just want to leave it in positive form. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2x to both sides. So now I'm going to have y equals 5 plus 2x, or you could write it as 2x plus 5, whatever you want. And solving this one, looking at it, I'm going to go ahead and take that and plug it in. So taking this, plugging it into my y, and now I'm going to end up with x. I'll write it in black. I have x squared minus, in parentheses, 5 plus 2x plus 3x equals 1. And now I'm going to go ahead and solve for x. So looking at this one, going ahead and distributing this negative, I'm going to end up with x squared minus 5 minus 2x plus 3x equals 1. Combine what I can. So finding those like terms, combining my like terms, what can I combine? My x's right here. And looking at this one, I'm going to end up with x squared. If you want to do it in one step, you can. I'm going to go ahead and just subtract that 1. So now I have equals. So let me just scoot this down. So again, what do I have? I'm going to have x squared. I'm going to write it in standard form. So my x's are going to go first. So x squared plus x minus 6 equals 0. All right, so looking at this, again, I have to factor. So I'm going to ask myself, factoring it, what number multiplies to give me negative 6? And adds to give me positive 1. Sorry, it's a little small. So I'm going to have negative 3, or nope, negative 2 and a positive 3. Okay, always look at your sign, see if it makes sense. Negative 2 times 3 gives me negative 6. Multiply times a negative times a positive is a negative. And then I'm adding, I'm going to take the sign of my larger number. So it's going to be a positive 1. So going ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and write that over here. What do I have now? Open parentheses, x minus 2 and x plus 3 equals 0. So now I'm just going to go ahead and solve for my x's. This one's pretty easy. X is going to equal positive 2. X is going to equal negative 3. Put the negative sign there. And then taking that and plugging it into my y. So taking this, because I'm trying to solve for y, plugging these into x and solving. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and write it right underneath it. So y equals 5 plus 2 times 2. And y equals 5x, or sorry, not 5x. 5 plus 2 times negative 3. And I'm going to get 5 plus 4. Y is going to equal 9. And 5 minus 6. Y is going to equal negative 1. So in this case, my answer is going to be one solution is 2, 9. And the other solution is negative 3, negative 1. And that's it for this question.